Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DETAUX, Designers Talk UX.
Jamila Jamil once said, "Every twist and turn in life is an opportunity to learn something new about yourself, your interests, your talents." Welcome to the first episode of Cracked. We were connecting with Saradasish, who went from being a clear chef to a tech chef. Stay tuned to know how. Hey Saradasish, welcome to DETAUX. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing great as well. What's happening? Congratulations, first of all, you got into TechChefz. And how's the company? What does it do?
So, thank you for the congratulations part. But yeah, the company is basically a B2B company, and they actually provide services to different businesses. Like, let's say there is some technology they want to work in, then TechChefz kind of helps there. And they have their let's say the company or the businesses want to build their own websites or mobile apps, then there also TechChefz helps them to build the specific stuff. So my role has been kind of mentor, somewhat a mentor, a designer, and there are projects coming in, different kind of projects coming in, and I would say there are a lot of interns also coming in. So preparing them as well as working on my own stuff, things are getting a bit
Yeah.
hectic kind of thing.
Right. I mean, designers don't sleep, right? So it's always like this, that.
Yeah.
Great. We'd love to know about the interview process, right? So I thought we would put it out, and we like the audience that we have would want to know how's the design industry hiring, what is the different kind of processes. So we start with the series where we can talk about that. So we'd love to know the process that TechChefz uses to be able to hire designers. So can you share something on that?
Yeah, so actually TechChefz uses two kind of processes. Basically, they go through a reference process, and the second is they particularly perform give the assignments and perform the whole interview round with the candidates. They started they saw my previous projects that I have done, like the one in Behance that I have put in Behance, and then they asked questions regarding it. Then they were basically going through some UX laws that if I would know or not. Then they also asked some situation basis questions where they wanted to check the whole approach to questions thing, like how I basically approach to a problem statement and how I move on with the whole solution part.
Okay. Do you want to detail these out maybe for the audience?
Detail, yeah. So basically, the assignment round, I also had to go through the assignment round in my previous company. I'll start from there. In Learncool, I had to solve a particular assignment. They actually provided me their own website.
Oh.
And the whole journey, they showed me the whole journey first and told me that if I could find any kind of improvement or add any kind of improvement to the whole the login and creating groups, the whole process there. So my approach to the whole assignment was that how I can basically solve this problem, or let's say first finding out the problem statement was my first target. And then when I found out the whole problem with the whole system there, and then I actually started finding solutions to it, referring to different competitions around the whole application. So basically this was the solution they actually I had to provide them just for the whole process to continue. So these I actually first pointed out the whole assumptions part, as everything about the application were not clear to me. So there were some few assumptions I had to make, and I also pointed out them the assumptions, and then described the whole onboarding flow, the current onboarding flow they were following, and then I started explaining the improvement part, and then I moved on to the wireframe structure, and then moving from the wireframe structure, I also suggested like finding out the problem part, the problem they were currently having, using the like typing down the whole solution, suggesting the solution. They were having problems with the form. They were having actually a long form actually. So I made it a little bit small, broke it down into three, and these were some of the solutions I provided. So yeah, the main suggestion I would like to say is, if someone is going through this kind of statement, then I guess pointing out the problem as well as the solution is the most important thing. Actually like describe it to your own interviewer there. And moving on, the second type of interview I went through, they actually had to question on basis of my this actually worked on while my time in designers.
Okay.
So this was the ClearChef app, and basically the problem statement was to connect the new kind of the new users, or let's say the new people who are getting into different cities, and they have problem finding different cooks or chefs who can actually home cook at their own place. So the different kind of questions were somewhat like, what is affinity analysis, how did I do that, how did I decide on the age groups that were differentiated, and from which kind of applications I had, this competitive analysis, pain points and stuff. And they finally moved on to the like the application flow and all. How did I decide on that? So my first suggestion would be, like, while working on an interview, you definitely have to, like, the candidates or the students definitely have to reason their every statement. Whatever they are going to answer, they might need to justify the whole situation, a whole solution they are providing. So they need to keep that in mind, that people are definitely, let's say, interviewers definitely ask for the reason why they are going for this kind of solution rather than some other kind of solutions.
Was there any specific incident that happened that was interesting, that where they asked you this?
I actually got to face that in my first interview, the previous one, the Learncool one.
Okay.
So there I actually mentioned that there are two kind of solutions we can go through, and they were pretty much happy to see that I have actually found two solutions. But why there is a differentiation, that why would I prefer the first solution rather than the second solution? They also asked questions on that. So thing is, bring everything to the table rather than hiding something and then like presenting after the interviewer asks you the question.
Right. Okay.
So moving on, I would like to have the candidates, like, let's say, the suggestion I would like to have them is, they need to work on the self-initiated projects. I also had to work on some, and I actually presented my own work.
So, why do you think self-initiated projects or some side hustles have become important now?
So self-initiated projects are important just because I think they pretty much show how you generally work around a problem, or how you search for a basic problem statement and all. So the whole basically why an interviewer takes an interview, I think they actually want to know you, that if you are a perfect candidate for their like who is going to work perfectly in like fit perfectly in their organization or not. So yeah, the other project I was talking about, this is the project I'm working on. Like basically, I would say this is the graphic stuff I actually work for my hobby,
Okay.
and this is a website I'm working on. So basically, what happens is I design every illustration and help like take help from my one of my peers, and they actually develop the whole WordPress based website. Let me just tell you how anyone can start this self initiated project stuff, because people actually search for what they do is generally they go search for projects in Behance, or let's say
Right.
they go for searching for projects on Dribble and then start working on the same stuff,
Right.
not thinking about how to improve the solution, or what is the basic problem statement, how we can improvise things. So they don't actually think about it. Most of the candidates don't think about it, or they might not know, or let's say they are not aware of it.
Hmm.
So I guess finding the problem statement comes as in a first step.
Right.
You have to find the problem statement in like detecting the problem is the first thing you can start with as a UX designer, and then moving on you have to explore solutions rather than putting on your own solution. You have to explore different solutions so that you can find out that if anyone else is following that same solution,
Hmm.
or what kind of creative solutions different competitive websites or competitive mobile apps they are
Hmm.
following, and if they are following the same thing, then how can you improvise or add some of your values to it.
So, do you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the reference really worked over here, and does it work really a lot in the, especially in the for designers to be able to refer and get into a company, or were you getting enough opportunities by applying yourself?
So like I would say you can actually go through any kind of medium. You can go through references, or you can go through like applying through like through let me say let's say LinkedIn or some different job portals. But thing is, if you are not going through the interviews proper, this kind of job portals, you're not going to experience that much, that level of questions, that level of you are not going to get yourself tested properly, rather than in a reference kind of that. I would say the process I went through was not enough to test myself that if I am sufficient enough
Okay.
for this particular job or not.
Right.
I think every interview I give, I look forward to that, if I am going to be enough for that organization or not.
So a lot of times, especially the designers resist from performing tasks, right? So how was your reaction? I mean, you've given a bunch of interviews, and did you find it very cumbersome to be able to give multiple interviews, and everyone's asking for conducting a certain task, and then you have to submit it? So how was your reaction, and how did you feel about that?
So the first thing I feel is that whenever you give a specific task to anyone, you need to look for a particular amount of time you need for that task, which you are going to be most productive out of it.
Right.
So whenever you are going to apply for these interviews, you're going to get an assignment, and moreover, each and every company, they only give you 2 to 3 days. Most of the time you also get one day that you have to
Right.
provide assignments the next day. So
Right.
this becomes difficult, that when you are going to design something, you need to think about it, you need to process it, you need to research about it, that if I'm going to have that kind of idea to solve that problem or not, then you have to start designing wireframes, or let's say you have to do some rough work and then you start on designing. You can't do it in
Right.
one day, I would say. So
Right.
I guess 2 to 3 days is pretty much okay. But sometimes whenever I get it that the assignment has to be submitted in one day, I
Right.
pretty much tell the HR that this is actually would be very much hard for me, because in one day I'm not going to be so much like doing so much of a research to find out a particular kind of solution for a problem statement.
In the end, I would also like to know how was your experience learning at Designers Academy?
So I actually loved it, like, because before coming into designers, I actually had a experience working 1.8 years in. I also had I already had a experience in UI and UX
Right.
itself. But thing is, I actually knew a few facts about UI, not particularly a very much good idea about UX. I was fascinated about UX. I started reading about it, but I couldn't get into like the whole bunch of a knowledge I could gather.
Right.
So I had to get a in-depth knowledge, which is why I was actually following designers prior to coming there. Like, let's say 1 year back, I started following designers, what are they providing and stuff, and researching about it. And then I when moved into designers, I got good good students or good colleagues, I would say, where I could discuss with them. I had a good mentor who could describe my doubts and clear my doubts properly, and I actually had everything I would need for a basic step, for the lowest steps to start.
Brilliant, Saradasish. I think it was lovely talking to you and knowing your journey and how you got into TechChefz. And I hope it helps a lot of people who would want to get into TechChefz or who have some doubts about the similar kind of experience that they are facing in their interviews. All right, and
I hope
we
so.
hope to have more conversations with you over time. Anything in the end that you would like to add for the people who are watching you?
So I would like to tell them that if you are getting, I am pretty now into UX designing right now, but before that I had to go through the whole design part. Like, let's say I was a graphic designer, UI designer, a UX designer, and a UI developer in my first organization where I had to work. So then only I started developing interest for UX.
Right.
Most of the time I find right now that people see that UX designers are getting paid more. So let's move into UX designing. But I
Right.
would say, if you are not loving the stuff, if you don't love working, then don't go for this, because this is going to spoil your life, or let's say this is going to spoil some part of your time.
True. True.
Start loving something and then making into work would be the first step, I would say, to move into working. Let's say maybe a UI designer, UX designer, any kind of designer.
Right. Yeah. You should love what you do, right? At the end of
Yeah,
it, if you don't like what you're doing and it's just for the money, then you're essentially it's like slavery. So you don't feel
pretty
good.
much. Pretty much, you are going to actually get frustrated at some point of time, and you won't move, or you won't like to grow anywhere.
Right. Right. Lovely to hear your thoughts, Saradasish. And thank you so much for coming. And we'll see you again soon.
Me too.
Good to have you. Take care. Bye bye.
So, guys, that was it for today. We hope you liked the cracked interview story. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section down below. If you'd like to see more videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. Bye bye and take care.